In today's episode, I have the privilege of sitting down with Ryan Hawk and Brook Cupps. Now, Ryan is the founder and host of the Learning Leader podcast, where he has interviewed over 600 of the world's most influential leaders, such as Jim Collins, Simon Sinek, Adam Grant, Tony Robbins, James Clear, just to name a few. The Learning Leader show has been named on Apple Podcasts bestseller for the past 4 years, and it regularly ranks as the #1 business podcast in the world. Ryan also travels the globe teaching the world's largest companies, universities, and associations about personal excellence, leadership, storytelling, sales, teamwork, and so much more. Brook Cupps is the head basketball coach at Centerville High School, where he's led his team to the 2021 Division I state championship and 4 consecutive Final Four appearances. With over 24 years of coaching experience, Brook has now just joined Ryan's Learning Leader team, where he helps teams live through their values, become more disciplined, and earn better results. Now, Brook and Ryan also just co-authored their book, The Score That Matters. In our conversation today, we really break down their book centering around the ideas about what leadership really means to them, the difference between this inner and external scoreboard, how to develop the inner scoreboard as leaders first before we can lead other people, and about how we can actually create an environment and an experience where the inner scoreboard really comes to life and we're focusing on that score that really matters, where we're not chasing after results, where we're not chasing after these external things that are not guaranteed in life. I know you're going to have so many great takeaways from this conversation. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this conversation with Ryan Hawk and Brook Cupps. Ryan Hawk and Brook Cupps, welcome to the Being Champions podcast.
Thanks for having us, Matt. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have you guys. Ryan, I've been a huge fan. I've been listening to the Learning Leader for years now. Ryan, you have been on a lot of runs with me when I go out and get my workouts in, always getting my brain going as I'm running. And Brooks, I was just telling you before I hit record, after I read the book, and listening to some interviews with you, it's just an absolute privilege. I feel like we're cut from the same cloth. So I'm really excited to have both of you guys on this call. But I would love for you guys to kind of share, like Ryan and Brook, how did you guys hook up? Ryan, talk about your Learning Leader, how your team has expanded, and what was it like being co-authors on a book together?
All right, which one do you want me to tackle first? That's a lot.
Let's go with Learning Leader and your team that you just formed, because I'm really excited about this team you got, Ryan.
Okay. Well, probably the proper order would be how we first met. And then that led to where we are today.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly what year. Was it 16 or 17, Brooke? He'd sent me an email asking to speak at this leadership group that him and Eli Liker put together at Centerville High School. Basically, was it all the team captains or just leaders from sports teams and groups, Brooke? Is that what it was?
Yeah, it was just the leaders from those different, any extracurricular group.
Yeah. So I went and did that, and then got to meet with some of the students in Brooks' leadership class. And then I asked him to come speak at one of my events, where he crushed it. And I think we just realized we're pretty aligned when it comes to how we approach leadership and just life in general. And I find him to be rare as far as a guy who seems to be able to live by his internal scoreboard, and has since the day that I've met him, and I'm sure a lot longer than that.
Yeah.
And I want to be around people like that. I want to be surrounded by those, because I felt like he would help lift me up. And I think those seem to be the best relationships in life, where both people feel like they're getting the better end of the deal. I feel like that in my marriage as well, I'd have to say. And I think with my best friendships for the most part. And I think that's been the case since I think the day we met. I feel like I get the far better end of the deal. And so I just try to do whatever I can to add value to Brooks' life as well as the others in our lives. And I think if you try to do that, usually good things seem to happen over the course of time. But yeah, that's how it all got started. And it just, I think, slowly built from that day forward, and is continuing to build to this day.
I love that. And Ryan, talk about I know you guys started this book off as kind of like this video, a 6 hour video session that turned into a book. So how was that process of actually working with Brook? I know Brook was your mentor and it was kind of like this teacher student relationship. So talk about that experience about working with your mentor and having the chance to write this book together.
Yeah, we sat down on a holiday. Was it Memorial Day, a Monday, when you had off from teaching? And for like 8 hours, we brought a film crew in here to this office where I'm standing right now and filmed what was to be an online course. I also had my friend Dan Smith sitting right next to us off camera, basically typing out everything we were saying. And once Dan sent me the transcript to that day of the stuff that we riffed on and talked through, that's when I texted Brook and said, I think this could be a book. What do you think? And his response, I always remember, was, I'm down.
Yeah.
And from that point forward, we went through titles and different tweaks and changes to the book. Went through, I think, multiple periods of time where we both felt, this thing isn't very good.
Yeah.
Questioned it, which is kind of the process, I think, for writing most books. It has been for me, at least, all three of them. But that's part of the deal. It's messy. It's not supposed to be beautiful all the time. You question yourself. You wonder if you're a terrible writer. You wonder if it's any good.
Yeah.
But I will say, having a co-author, to do this together as a team, for me was super helpful, because when I would see Brook write and see the latest thing, it would kind of inspire me to write something powerful or useful, to ensure I was doing my part. It's just like being a part of a team. You don't want to let your teammates down. So
Yeah.
I would say that was one of the coolest parts for me, is like I would see his latest entry and want to try my best to, to add value and to hold up my end of the bargain as well. And I think finally we got there to something that we're both proud of.
Yeah, I love it. And Brooke, what do you think? What was that experience like, being a coach, being a teacher, now becoming a writer? What was that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's just what Ryan said. I think the coolest part was doing it together.
Yeah.
Like I had written once by myself, which was hard, and that's really why I wrote my first book. It wasn't really going to be a book. But Ryan kind of challenged me to publish it, and so that was that was something I did that was kind of all on my own by myself. I mean, I sent it to some people to look at, but like Ryan said, the coolest part of this was the camaraderie and the kind of the fellowship and creating something together. I thought
Yeah.
that was fun, and I enjoyed the whole thing. It sucked. There were a lot of hard parts and a lot of
Yeah.
times where I remember thinking, this ain't a book, dude. Like I remember like this does not make any sense right now. But you just keep chopping and you figure it out and keep moving forward. And like you said, I think now we've got something that I'm proud of. I think it helps people. I think it can help people become better, and that's what we were looking for.
Yeah, let's talk about that, guys. So the book is The Score That Matters: Growing Excellence in Yourself and Those You Lead. And I'll tell you guys right now, I read the book on Kindle, and I think the whole thing might be highlighted. Kindle got mad at me when I was trying to look at the notes, and it's like, you've exceeded your limit by like 80%. But that was just the impact it had. And I love how practical it was and how you guys put exercise in it. And that's what I love about books, is not just about the what, but really explaining the how. So literally in this book, we can take the content and then easily apply it. So what I wanted to ask you guys first, and because Ryan, your whole business, your guys are working with leaders, is what does leadership mean to you guys beyond just having the title? And I wanted to cue this up, Ryan, because I read something in the book, and you're kind of referencing people and being a quarterback. I know you used to be a quarterback, and you said, like many positions, many people seek leadership for its visibility and the perceived glory, while neglecting and considering the full responsibility of leadership. So could you guys talk to us about what does leadership mean to you beyond just having the title and not going after this perceived glory, and what does it actually really entail?
BC?
I mean, for me, I've thought about that. I know you put that in the email. For me, leadership is more of just about like extending your impact. I think it gives you an opportunity for a greater impact. I wouldn't say when you're in a leadership role, because I don't see it as a role. I see it as an action and a mindset. So when you choose to become a leader, you're just growing the impact and that you have on the people around you.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, I would certainly agree. I think Jim Collins said this to me years ago. Leadership is the art of getting people to want to do what must be done. There's a number of elements to that. Is first, it's an art, and then it's getting other people to want to do what must be done. So you need to know what must be done,
Yeah.
as well as I think you have to the leaders have to go first. They have to be so the way they just go about life, the way they live is inspiring to others to want to do what needs to be done. And so that's why leadership always starts with leading yourself. And I don't think you're ever going to be good at leading other people and inspiring other people to move to do something unless you're really good at leading yourself. And I think the fun part about that is that it never ends. It never stops. The people who are really good at it, the people who are effective at leading other people are constantly working on themselves. They're a work in progress. They're probably tough on themselves. They have very high standards for themselves, and they're striving to live up to those high standards and expectations. And a lot of times we fall short. A lot of times we mess up. But I think it's like Brooke said earlier about how we got the book done. You just kind of keep chopping, right? You keep showing up. I mean, part of what makes us both, I think, effective at whatever it is that we do in life is you feel good, you go to work. You feel bad, you go to work, right? You feel okay, you go to work. I mean, you just got to, it's not sexy, right? It's just, you kind of get up each day and keep going to work. And I think if you do that over time and, you develop some good habits and you have a good purpose and you understand your core values and the critical behaviors that align with those values. And then you can test yourself at the end of each day with saying, did I live up to those? And you keep stacking those days, day after day after day, you're probably going to be pretty good at leading yourself, which then gives you a chance to lead others. And that's the kind of the current thing I think about all the time is, am I doing that? And if I continue to do that, then I have a chance to impact other people in a positive way.
I love that. And Ryan, I love how you talk about leading yourself, because I always say that leadership's not about you, but it starts with you, right? And understanding who you are as a person first and how you actually want to lead. And I think that segues really nice, guys, to when you talk about the score that matters. And you guys open up the book and you talk about everyone's keeping score, right? There's always a score about how much money you make or what kind of cars you have. And now, even thinking now, like Brooke, we both work with high school athletes. Now we have NIL deals that we have to deal with, and now the professionalization of youth sports. So talk to us about the score that really matters. And you guys kind of broke it down as far as the inner scoreboard versus the external scoreboard. And I know you kind of keyed this off of a quote from Warren Buffett. So talk to us about these two differences between the scoreboards.
I mean, for me, I think to put it in the simplest form, I think when you are operating by an internal scoreboard, you're moving all of your focus to controllables into your circle of control. And I think when you're operating from an external scoreboard, you're operating way more in your circle of influence or circle of concern, like those things that are outside of your control. And so along with operating in your circle of control, like it has a huge impact on your confidence and your courage, like how courageous are you willing to be, and how much are you comparing yourself with other people. I just think it has this kind of cascading effect on your entire life. And when you can focus on that, I think you're much better at surrendering some of that other stuff, because in that circle of control, you're locked into that, and you're trusting that that's going to produce the results that you're looking to get. And so that would probably be the easiest way to explain it, is it pushes everything to your circle of control.
Love it.
And I've talked to Brooke a lot about the fact of defining your own version of what success is for you.
Yeah.
Society is really good at trying to define what success should be for people. And I think, again, when I think about the people that I've interviewed on my podcast, the ones that seem to really have sustained excellence over time have this almost comfort level in their own skin because they've done the hard necessary work to define what success is for them in their life, as opposed to playing the game of comparison and having success defined by others. I think it's really hard to do that. It also never ends. You got it's a constant thing that we have to work on, but getting very clear on what is success for you. What's your purpose?
Yeah.
What are your values? What are the behaviors to align with those values, and are you living within that? And I think that's what success is for me.
Yeah.
And that's what I try to do. And I know, like, when I am good at that, things seem to go well. Like, opportunities arise, I meet cool people, good things happen for my family, versus when I compare myself to others and when I get focused on the wrong things that are not within my control, then things just seem to not go as well. So it's weird how it works. And it's more of a long game play, but getting very clear on what success is for you, I found to be, it's funny, like, it actually creates the best results,
Yeah.
even though we're not focused on necessarily results, but it seems to be what leads to the best things, both for me and the people I love the most, like my family. So it's interesting how it works, and it's really hard, but it's very effective.
Yeah.
And that's been one of the biggest roles I feel like Brook, as a mentor of mine, has helped me with.
Yeah, I love it. I think it is super hard, like you guys are talking about, because we live in a society of now just instant gratification. I can go on my phone and Google anything, get any information. Like, we talked to our kids the other day. It's like, if you want to get food, there's like 100 locations within a 2 mile radius within our school. So it's like everything has been easy, right? They want to find the easy path. But like Ryan, what you're saying, this is a long journey, but we have to be super intentional about who we are and how we want to show up. So I was wondering if you guys can kind of walk us through. Ryan, you were talking about kind of like the framework of having your purpose, having values, the critical behaviors. How do you go through that process to actually lock in this inner scoreboard as a leader and as a person?
This is Brook's wheelhouse, so I'm gonna
Yeah,
I'm gonna
all right,
defer to
let's
him.
go, Brooke.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it's just like anything else. You need to have, like Ryan talked about, defining success. Until you do that, if until you have a clear picture of what success looks like for you, then you're really just kind of wandering around. Like
Yeah.
we're just floating through life. We don't have really any intention with what we're doing. And so I think that's the first thing, whether it's as a coach, as an athlete, as a father, whatever it is, identifying what that success looks like. And then once you have that, then I think it becomes that internal look of like, okay, what's important to me and how do I want to go about living my life? Like, I think your purpose is kind of your why, and your values and your behaviors are kind of your how,
Yeah.
right? And so our values are the things that I think the easiest way to do it is to think about the people that you admire, and like, you admire people for reasons. It's not random. It's just not like, there's a reason that you admire someone, just like there's a reason you dislike someone. Usually it is because they do things that violate something that's very central to who you are and what you believe. And so by looking at the people that you admire, I think you can kind of narrow in on some values that you want to live your life through. And I think a lot of people say they have values, and companies, teams put them up. Really, I think the thing that separates um, the people that can actually live authentically and lead through who they actually are is the behaviors. I think
Yeah.
I think that is like the biggest thing. And so figuring out, like, tough for me, like, tough is one of my core values. Figuring out what does tough mean to me? Like, how does that look in action? And that's a hard question. That's not like, boom, I got the answer. I can't Google it. I have to put some thought into it and really reflect and think. And, like, for me, tough is positive body language.
Yeah.
Like, showing up with positive body language, no matter what's going on, no matter the circumstance, no matter what, positive body language, no matter what happens to me. And I think that's the root of toughness. And so that allows me, knowing that, having that type of clarity where it's like positive body language is what tough is, that allows me to enter every space with toughness.
Yeah.
So I'm living my value because I know for sure I just got to show up with positive body language. Stuff will flow from that, right? And there's times I don't. And when I reflect on that, then I try to fix it, try to be better the next time. But I think it's the clarity and the simplicity that provide the kind of the power in it.
Yeah.
So purpose, values, behavior, but that behavior that's the one that I found the most people don't wrestle with and really come to grips with what those behaviors for their values are.
And guys, can you both give us examples? I know Brooke, you started to dive into a little bit about your values of tough, passionate, unified, and thankful. And Ryan, I know yours are thoughtful, thankful, curious, and consistent. Can you talk to our listeners about the critical behaviors you attach to each of those to kind of give us a little bit more of a reference of how we line up the values with the behaviors? And like you said, Brooke, we want to make sure we bring them to life.
Yeah, so I'll finish mine off real quick. Tough is positive body language. We say fight ready a lot, like a
Yeah.
boxer going into the ring. Passionate is choosing extra work. So we say stealing inches, like taking opportunities to get advantages, doing everything we can. Unified is one that people ask about a lot because for us, it's speak and act with urgency.
Yeah.
And so the root of that's tied to unified for us, which some people don't see that relationship. But for me, one of the most selfish things you can do is not hold the standard to what you've agreed to on a team. So if I watch a guy not touch a line and don't say anything, that is not speaking and acting with urgency, right? So we want to encourage our guys. I want to be a person that speaks and acts with urgency because I know the time I have is limited, whether it's with the team that I have or my life. I ain't got forever,
Yeah.
right? So I want to make sure that I maximize that. And then thankful is showing love, and we talk about getting touches and
Yeah.
engaging with people and things like that. So
Love it.
Yep. So you mentioned ours, so I appreciate your prep. Knowing our values, but thoughtful, thankful, curious, and consistent. Took a while to get there, by the way. I don't think the
Yeah.
process should be like instant. I think you should really wrestle with this stuff and think about it. The critical behaviors to match with each. And Brooke started mentioning some of the sayings or the beliefs that go along with that. So thoughtful for me is seeking to understand. So, I mean, part of what I do for a living is ask people questions,
Yeah.
trying to understand their perspective, their point of view. So, to me, I want to approach people seeking to understand their worldview, their point of view, understand that they see it differently than me based on their life experiences versus mine. So, I'm seeking to understand. Thankful. The short version is leave it better. The longer version is leave people, places, and things better than I found them.
Yeah.
It's the old Girl Scout rule. A lot of people say it. So if you go to a campground, make it look better than it was before you got there. If you go to Speedway to get a big gulp, you notice the person before you left some of their trash on the ground. You pick it up. When I meet with people like you, Matt, I hope that by the end of our time together, I will have left you better than I found you, that type of thing. These are easy prompts I can ask myself at the end of the day. Did I clean up the trash? Did I leave Matt better than I found him? Right. That type of thing. Curious for me is stretching my zone of competency. I find people and their stories fascinating. I mean, that's why I do what I do for a living. And I want to, put myself in rooms, whether it's in Zoom or in person, with people who are far wiser and more thoughtful than me, and learn from them and ask them questions. And that's a stretch. That stretches me. That makes me uncomfortable at times because it's obvious in a lot of these situations the people I'm speaking with or the people I'm interviewing are far wiser than me. And I want to regularly be stretched in that way. And that's how I live out my value of being curious. And then consistent is something we've both talked about, is the fact that regardless of how I feel, I'm going to show up. I need to get up and get after it. I certainly am born with some talents and some skills, but as a way to make up for maybe the lack of talent or skills in certain areas, I can overcome that by showing up consistently each day, regardless of how good or bad that I feel. And that is part of my family's DNA. If you found one value from especially my dad and my brothers that we probably all share, I would say it's this very unsexy value of being consistent and showing up and being in the weight room and being in the film room and not missing a rep at practice and, all that stuff. That's probably what we're best at. And again, it's when we get asked at the end of keynotes about, what are the hacks or what are the ways that we can do something quickly that will change our lives for the better. Brooke and I usually don't have like the best answers to give that's going to
Yeah.
change your life in a day. It's like, well, you can get up and work consistently for like 10 years and then maybe it will go better for you. And that's not really a fun answer, but I think it's probably the right answer. It is for me at least, and I think it is for Brooke too. And that's you know, that showing up is just, I think, really important. And one of the ways that I think it's worked in this whole podcasting thing is I've tried to help people start podcasts probably over the past decade since I've had mine.
Yeah.
And the last thing I put like in this, I have this saved kind of document I send to people is don't quit. Almost everyone does. That's like the last thing, because sometimes you could win by just continuing to play the game as opposed to quitting, because it's easier to quit because there's a lot of reasons to quit, right? This sucks. It's hard. It's not growing like I thought it would, or whatever the reason is. So you're like, all right, let me just go do something else. And I think part of the way that you can give yourself a shot is just to continue to do it.
Yeah, absolutely love that. And again, it goes back to that. It has to be hard. We have to be consistent. We have to be patient. And as we work on ourselves, and I feel like this is sometimes where we struggle as leaders is you guys tell us, we figure out what we have to do. We figure out what our inner scoreboard is. We figure out what our purpose is, our values, our critical behaviors. But now how do we take that to the next step? And I'm big on, understanding that as coaches and as leaders, we're the ones that create the environment and we're the ones that get to create the experience every day for our kids. So how do we actually create this environment where our kids are now embracing this inner scoreboard and getting away from the external? Again, we were talking about, youth sports is professionalized now and you can get paid as a 13, 14-year-old kid. How do we as leaders instill this mindset where we're looking at things beyond the scoreboard, beyond the stats, beyond the results, and understanding it's more important about who we become in this process?
I mean, I think one of the first things from a coaching standpoint, especially, is you got to stop talking about the results all the time. Like if that's all you're talking about, and then you say, yeah, but it doesn't matter. Like we're just trying to become the best version of ourselves. Like nobody's listening to that. That's not what you're. And if you got to pay attention to the things that you're, rewarding and confronting. Are you strictly rewarding the results that are happening, even if they're not happening in the right way? Like if the process is ugly or like bad, that I think those are two big things, is what are you honoring and recognizing, and what are you putting up in front of your team consistently?
Yeah.
I don't, as far as the idea of, getting a group to focus on that, I'm a big believer in, like, you can't be tough alone. Like, so it is the people that you surround yourself with. You ask about the team with Ryan that he's kind of put together. I mean, the best part of our group that we have is the we're better, we're tougher because of the people that we've chosen to surround ourselves with.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important thing from a culture standpoint is I don't need a great basketball X and O guy to be my assistant. I need somebody that's going to drive our culture to be my assistant. I can
Yeah.
teach them the X and O. They have to fully embrace our values and our beliefs, because that's really what's driving our success or failure and the progress of our kids in
Yeah.
terms of their lives. And so understanding that and making that a priority, and when I'm hiring people, when I'm bringing people in, when I'm rewarding or punishing things within our program, I think is critical.
Yeah, Brooke, when you said that, there's an old proverb that says you feel like you can go faster alone, but you're always going to go further together, right? And
Right.
understanding like we need that. And you think about, in sports, we're competing, right? And if you look at that original definition of competition, it means to strive together, right? And that's one of the things I try to get our kids and get our coaches to understand, that we need each other to bring the best out of each other. And I know you guys talk about this whole concept of having a foxhole friend. And what does that mean? Like, because again, we can have all these things, but we need those people in our life that's going to hold us accountable. So can you talk to us about this whole concept of having a foxhole friend, or those 3 a.m. friends?
I mean, I think for one, you hear people say, I don't care what anybody thinks, first of all. That's I don't care what anybody thinks. So that's never true.
Yeah.
The more somebody's telling you that, the more they care about what you think.
Yeah.
And if you truly don't care what anybody thinks, then you're just a narcissist and nobody wants to be around you anyway.
Yeah.
So, like, we should care what some people think, but not everybody, and not to the same degrees. And so I think the main message with the 3 a.m. friends or the Foxhole friends is just those are people that are in your life that care about you for who you are.
Yeah.
That if you take away the basketball, you take away the podcast, you take away wins and all that, they care about you, right?
Yeah.
And those people's opinions should matter. Like if those people are telling you you're being an idiot, then you need to really think about, well, maybe I'm being an idiot,
Yeah.
right? Because they care about you. And so I think it gets you away from the comparison thing a little bit too. Like
Yeah.
if you're just listening
Yeah.
to everybody, now you're chasing all these different things. It allows you to be true to who you are, and appreciate that camaraderie because you're doing the same thing for them. You know, like iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
It's all the same stuff. But I think most people have never thought about it. Is why we put it in the book. I think, and I always tell people, you think you've got a bunch of 3 a.m. friends, you don't.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't.
Exactly.
And you shouldn't. Like you shouldn't. It's okay. But you don't have as many as you think you have.
Yeah, I know Ryan, you have a cool story with Jim Collins about that, where you're so excited. I know Jim was like your big hero, and you just had this cool moment with Jim when you were explaining everything. So can you talk to us about that experience with Jim?
Yeah, I was really nervous. He's a bright guy. He's written one of my Quake books, right? A book that kind of shook me to my core, good to great. Probably because it's actually one of the first books I've ever read. So
Yeah, yeah,
whatever. Um, but it was still a great book. It still is, even if not all of the science with the companies hold up. But anyway, I'm talking to him, and I'm talking really fast and talking about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it and how I'm doing it. And he just like, calm down, man. The single greatest determining factor in your long-term success or failure will be your who.
yeah,
Who will be your mentors? Who will be your friends? Who will be your spouse? Who will be the people that you want to intentionally surround yourself with? And this goes back to your first question, and Brooke just touched on it recently. Now that we built like this learning leader team of coaches, each selected, I would say, because I very much look up to everyone. And I've used this analogy before when one of my favorite musicians is Dave Matthews. And when he selected the members of his band, he said I wanted to be the worst member, talent wise, of the band. So I want to be surrounded by the best drummer in the world, the best saxophone player in the world, the best bassist, I guess, in the world, right? The best fiddle player in the world. And so that he'd have to try to raise his level just to hang with the other members of his band. And he's certainly great, right? Lyricist and guitar player. But I felt, the exact same way. Like I want, and there are other people, Brooke and I have talked about some of the other people that could have been a part of this that were good, I think really good, but not the level of the great Sherry Cole, Garen Stokes, Brook Cupps, and then Eli Liker, the guy who doesn't need any limelight, but will work like crazy behind the scenes, right? That is a special group of people that I try in all of my kind of work to live up to the level that each of them uniquely brings to the team. And they're different in different ways, but I think very aligned when it comes to excellence and care. I would say that is like one of the number one things, like a care for this stuff we're doing. And one of my roles within our team is to be like the sales guy.
Yeah.
And I've sold lots of different things in my career, but this is the first time where I believe in the thing that I'm selling with literally every ounce of my being. Yeah. So when I'm having these conversations with CEOs or leaders about us working with their leaders, there is no hesitation. There is no doubt. There is no questions if our team, our people are going to dramatically impact their people. Yeah. So I can say it and they can feel that. They can feel that, when you sell something you believe in with every ounce of your being, it's different than when you sell something that's just really good or will help you a little, like kind of in a good way. So that's a really fun thing for me to get to do. Like that's to be a part of a group where you believe in what they do with kind of everything you've got is awesome. And I'd encourage everybody to try to get themselves in a situation like that. And so that's why I think all of us probably feel fortunate to be a part of it. And that's what a good team is, right? Where you
Yeah.
feel fortunate to be a part of. We understand our roles, we go at them hard, and when it's time to work, like, everybody gets after it, everybody works. You have no doubts, you have no question if they're going to bring it, because you just know that they will. And again, that's a commonality probably around like the excellent teams, the best of the best, is that you know that about one another.
Yeah, and as I hear you talk, Ryan, like you can feel your guys' excitement, your energy. I mean, I love that episode, that special episode where you're introducing the team. Like you guys are on absolute fire. You could feel the passion. You knew like this is a team. This is what excellence looks like. And I think where we struggle sometimes as coaches and when we're forming our teams is we get really excited in the beginning of the season and we're like, yeah, this is our values, this is our standards, like here's our vision, this is what we're going to do. But then as the season goes on, we lose that narrative. And you guys brought up in this book this whole idea of being a steward of the narrative. And I love this concept. And I was wondering if you could kind of break that down. What does that mean, being a steward of the narrative, especially from a leadership perspective?
Yeah, that came from my interview with Scott Belsky. When he, so part of our job, I think, and Brooke can speak to this, especially with the basketball team. Part of our job is to regularly communicate to the people we're leading where we're at,
Yeah.
how we're doing, and where we're going, to inspire people to continue to go. And Scott's one of the best at this. He's now a senior leader at Adobe. They acquired his company. And usually what happens in those situations where Adobe acquired Behance, the company Scott started, is you have to stick around for like a year or 2 years until you get your full earn out, as they call it. And then that person always leaves.
Yeah.
Scott is so good. He didn't leave. He got promoted. And now he's like running Adobe from this small little company that got acquired, because I think one of the reasons is he's a very effective communicator. So I think this idea of regularly being a steward of the narrative, of the journey, of the story of your team is really important. And I know it's something Brook does really well, both with our team as well as with his basketball team. I'm sure if you want to talk through how you do that.
Well, I mean, it's the whole thing is you got to know where you're going first and what's your priority. If you don't know that, then you drift and you just start focusing on the things that society tells you is important, trying to win games. And so you've got to have some conviction on what you believe. Because I mean, it's easy to talk about your core values before the season when you haven't lost any games and when everybody's peachy and everything.
Yeah.
But it tells like the people you're leading are going to base what's important is when stuff gets hard and things aren't going well. That's when they're going to decide what you really believe. And I just think you have to just saturate, like we just saturate our environment with our values. So like we got our first game tonight. If we have two clips on a defensive breakdown in our film, we'll have 10 on our core value breakdowns or core value lifts, right? Like our clips will be on that's not what passionate looks like. That's not what
Yeah.
unified looks like. That's what we do, right? So I think we just keep talking about it and keep hammering it. People make fun of us for a while, then they decide, oh, maybe this stuff works, and then it becomes who they are.
Yeah.
And that's just the way, like you, it's not negotiable. That's what we're doing, and it just becomes part of the fabric of everything that we do has some part of our values and our culture built into it. And if not, then I mean, I did it the other way for the first 7 years of coaching. I just went into the next practice, the next game, trying to win the next game,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
as transactional as you could get. And it's just a different mindset, but you have to have some conviction to it because you will get pulled away from it. You have to. That's why I think the people around you are so important to point you back. Hey, that's not what we're doing. Like they need to be able to tell you that, and you need to be willing to listen to them.
Yeah, I love it. And I hear you guys talk and I get really excited because I always talk about story and thinking about like we all own this story, especially in a team dynamic and getting our student athletes or getting our team members to understand like we own this. This is our story. How are we going to add a better page every single day? How are we going to show up for each other? And I heard, Brooke, you were talking about, our standards, right? And what's the difference between having standards over rules? And why is that important within our environment where we're trying to really take ownership of who we're becoming?
I think of rules as being very black and white
Yeah.
and not considering of other people and other situations and other circumstances. Standards are related more to a mindset and an action. Like I tell you, when it shifted for me, I'll never forget. Kid's name was Dustin Macy. He played basketball for me at Graham. Um, we had a rule that if you were late for practice, you had 25 burpees.
Yeah.
Right, and it's over Christmas break. He's late. The came from not much, didn't have any money. Got to practice, and his like we had another guy that was late that day that overslept, and so he had his 25 burpees. And then we had this like Dustin got there and said he had to wait for his mom to get home from work before he could come to practice.
Yeah.
So he stayed home with his little sister, and then he was 15 minutes late for practice. And I just remember thinking, like, what am I doing? Like, that makes no sense. Like, this kid did exactly what he should be doing. That's exactly what he should do in that situation.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give him 25 burpees because he's late. That's what a rule says,
Yeah.
right? To me, a standard is do the right thing.
Yeah.
That's the right thing. Like,
Yeah.
the right thing is stay home with your sister or respect our time. Respect our time. You overslept. That's not respecting our time. Like, respect our time. I had to stay home with my sister. That's respecting our time. That's
Hmm.
that. So I think to me that was like a major shift for me. It's like, no, I'm not fair is not equal, equals not fair. I'm going to treat the player the right way and do what's right by the kid, regardless of what the rule says, and regardless about the email or the phone call I get from another parent. Like, yeah, it's not the same situation. But you can be mad about it if you want. If you want to change, you want to do it your way, coach your own team. That's what I say.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I love it. I had a great conversation. This is a couple years back with David Brandt. The book, The Messiah Method. He coaches soccer now over at Bucknell. And when he was
It's a
talking about
great book, by the way.
it,
No,
it's
most people don't know
awesome.
about that book.
Yeah,
That's a great
awesome,
book.
awesome book, awesome book. And he was talking about when he talks about standards versus rules, when you have rules, it's more of the mindset of I have to. Oh, I have to show up on time, or I have to do this, or if I don't do this, I'm going to do these burpees. Whereas he talked about when you have a standard, now it shifts to I get to. I get to be on time because I'm trying to be a better person. I get to be this. It's this whole shift as far as have to get to. And I feel like when we have that shift, we have more ownership. And then we start to break down some walls where everyone starts to own the standards. And I know you guys talk about in your book about eliminating this whole idea of having a hierarchy where everyone can own this or anyone can step into the leadership role. So I was wondering if you guys could talk about that whole idea of dropping this hierarchy within teams, and what are some thoughts as far as naming captains and all that stuff?
Yeah, I'm against naming captains.
Yeah,
And we might name them postseason, like honor the people that showed up and served as our leaders throughout the year. But we feel like within our standards, that is everyone's responsibility. That's not a one person thing. Now, obviously, within a team, other people are going to step up and be more vocal and be take on roles that they can do. But the truth is, like, we all lead in all these different little avenues of life. Like, if we're going to build a house, I'm not your leader. Yeah, I might
yeah,
go, I can swing a hammer. That doesn't make me a leader of it. Like, we all have these different talents that we need to be willing to let those people do what they're best at. And so I think a big part of leadership is knowing when you're not the best guy, like get out
yeah,
of the way and support that person to allow them to be great at what they do. Like, if our team is going to go give a talk or give a speech about something, like Ryan's our guy for that.
yeah,
Right? If it's
yeah,
about no excuses, then Garen's our guy. Like, I think the leadership part is I think leadership's a little bit blown out of proportion, if you want to be honest. Like, it's
yeah,
like if you're on a team, it's like we are all leading. It just depends on what part of it you're talking about. So I'm a big proponent of no captains.
Yeah.
We send two injured guys to the center circle to meet with the referees. We downplay it as much as you can possibly downplay it. It's everybody's responsibility.
Yeah, I love it. Right, Ryan, you have anything on that?
I was just laughing because Brooke knows how much I love talking trash about my flag football team right now because I'm coaching my daughter's 10-year-old flag football team, and he busts my balls about it. But after the game, we played on Sunday. We had our closest game of the year. And afterwards, the guy running the league likes to take a picture of the player of the game to post it on whatever the app they use for this league. And he's like, "All right, who's your player of the game?" And I was like, it's all 10 of them, man. Like we have 10 players of the game. Our girls played tough. Good defensive stand to win the game at the very end. And so all 10 are getting in there flexing and there, and he ended up loving it. But like I actually thought of Brooke. I'm like, there is no way I'm picking the girl who got the interception or whatever. Like all the girls played tough. So I do like that idea of sometimes you may name the captain after the season, like Brooke would do, or not name him at all, or different people have different specific leadership roles depending on what the situation is. And there's lots of opportunities for people to make that definitive choice to lead.
Yeah.
And I like that. Like I like teams that are, when I think of the best teams, whether it was sports or business, different people stepped up at different times to lead depending on what was happening. And I think that's a mark of probably a team that's going to do really well.
Yeah, I love it. I love how you guys always talk about that. Leadership is a choice, right? And if we take away that choice by naming a captain, I mean, it's tough for like a sophomore to step up into that leadership role if they know the senior is the captain, right? And I think our role as leaders is obviously not to create more followers, it's to create more leaders. And how do you do that? You open that door and you invite. I always say leadership starts with an invitation. We have to invite people to take on this role and choose to lead. But with that, I want to be respectful of your time. So I wanted to kind of end with this one idea. And you guys talk about it a lot. I think, Ryan, your first book was Pursuit of Excellence. And this whole word excellence, what does that word mean to you guys? What does excellence mean to you? What's your final takeaway on excellence?
I mean, for me, it's pretty simple. It's the best version of yourself. It's kind of the John Wooden
Yeah.
success quote. But then I would say, from a faith perspective, it's honoring Christ and being who He created me to be. That to me is what excellence really is, and what we're meant to be trying to do.
Love it.
I love Pat Riley's quote, the gradual result of always striving to do better.
Yeah.
That's it's always spoke to me. It's what I try to do. That's my version of excellence, is this gradual result of me and the people, hopefully, that I'm influencing and impacting, always striving to be better. That is as simplistic as I could think of it. And if that's your mentality, if our work inspires others to do that, we are effectively living within our purpose. And that is a gratifying feeling. It's fulfilling, and it's what I think I'm put here to do. So that's how I think about excellence.
I think one of the most important parts is what it's not.
Yeah.
Like it's not results.
Yeah.
It's not results.
Yeah.
I mean, I go back to my high school coach who never won a district championship. He was excellent at what he did.
Yeah.
Incredible relationships, incredible accountability. He just didn't have good basketball players.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean he wasn't excellent. Like you can have a trash man that's excellent. Like you can have a waiter that's excellent. Like it has nothing to do with your role, your lot in life. It doesn't have anything to do with the results. It's about how you go about whatever you're called to do.
Yeah, I love it. And you guys have referenced John Wooden, and John Wooden said, you got to ask me in 20 years if I'm a successful coach. Right. Because if I have great men, great fathers, that's what success looks like. That's what excellence is, right? It's not about the 10 national championships he's won, because at the end of the day, like that feeling really wears off in 3 or 4 days. If you win a championship, 3 or 4 days later, it's gone, right? It has that finite destination. But what I hear you saying that is excellence, we can always achieve and go after excellence, right? It's always going after the next version of yourself and never settling. And that's the best thing about excellence. And I kind of compare it to competitive greatness, where you're being at your best when your best is needed. And that's how we should show up every single day. Is there's no end game. Excellence, there is no end game. We can always find that next version. We can always strive together, work together to find that best version of ourselves.
Yep. Love it. With that said, if we're playing a game, we do want to win. We are not anti-winning. We are not anti-winning. I think it is healthy, especially for kids, but to compete, to have to bring everything you've got and be the best version of yourself, to be the best team version of that team can be consistently, is a good thing to strive for. So occasionally that will get brought up with us, since we're more intrinsically motivated and driven by our internal scoreboard. That doesn't mean we don't want to win. We still want to win the games that we play, right? But it's not like we don't set goals to win the conference or to write a best-selling book, right? We set a goal to write the best possible book that we could, and we're going to give everything we have to that. And if the result ends up to be a USA Today bestseller, that's great. We were very happy with that. I was happy, but that wasn't necessarily a goal or anything that we were striving for. It was like, let's write a book that impacts people. Let's have our team live into our values, and we don't need to get into process-oriented goals but that's how Brook sets his team goals. That's a whole nother podcast. But if you actually accomplish that goal of attacking opportunities with great purpose, for example, then you probably have a good shot to actually win whatever the competition is that you're engaged in.
Yeah, I love it. And like you said, Ryan, it's the obviously when you play sports, or if you're leading it, the goal is to win. Right. But there is a better process where winning will be the natural byproduct. It's not the end all be all. We're not just chasing a result. I always tell our kids, if we chase a result, then that result is going to run as far and as fast as away from us. So
and sometimes you will win a game, but you didn't accomplish your goals. Right.
Yeah.
You didn't play up
it's
to,
just
to
data.
your level.
The result is just data. That's all the result is. It's data to adjust your process.
Yep. And it's reflecting on that process, right? They always say you don't learn from the experience, you learn from reflecting on the experience. So even if you win, John Madden used to say winning's the worst. It's the best deodorant because it covers up a lot of the nasty stuff. And so it's one of those, again, it's just establishing that process and really focusing on, like you guys say, the score that really matters. And it's that inner scoreboard. You know, if we master that inner scoreboard, then that external is going to naturally show up for all of us. So with that, Ryan and Brook, I can't thank you guys enough for being on today. Ryan, you said you're hoping to leave me in a better place. I can 100% say I'm leaving this call a better person today. So thank you guys.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Appreciate you having us.
Yeah.
Thank you. We will catch up with you guys soon. We appreciate you.
Yeah, sounds good. See you.
Thanks.
See ya. Hey, I hope everyone enjoyed that conversation with Ryan Hawk and Brook Cupps. As I'm sitting here and thinking about my takeaways, I could really talk to those guys all day, because what they talk about just really fuels me. And it's about this inner scoreboard. It's about figuring out who we are as leaders first, and understanding what our purpose is, what our values are, what are our critical behaviors where we can make these values come to life. And then I think the big piece is, as leaders, we have to look at the environment and experience we are really creating for our kids and our athletes. Are we focusing on these external results? Are we focusing on what society is telling us what is important? Or are we really taking the time to define what success means to us, and what excellence means to us, and who we are as a team, and what our values are, and how we can live by our standards, and not just having these rules that are either make or break. So I think the challenge is for this week, after you listen to this episode, is just take a hard look at your environment. Are you focusing on that external, or are you really driving home this inner scoreboard, defining what success means to you individually, and collectively as your team, because when we do that, that's when we can achieve excellence. And when we achieve excellence, we discover the best versions of ourselves together. So I can't thank you enough for tuning in for another episode. If you want to connect with Brook and Ryan further, I'm going to include all their information in the show notes. And once again, we just appreciate you for taking the time and listening to the Being Champions podcast. Thanks.